Live.
Welcome back. I am Old New Dude, and my co-host is
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
This is a very good day. I wore, in honor of hearing about a Jon Snow show, I wore my Revenge is Coming shirt. I was going to wear my black hat in honor of the Taking the Black, but it's got so much stuff on it, I got to get some felt cleaner to it. So I can put it on now. But other than that,
I'm going with Direwolf City today.
There you go.
Direwolf City. Gray is one of the biggest proponents of. Well, Gray's the biggest of whatever she does because she's the queen of Twitteros and or at least Songbites of Fire YouTube.
Yes.
And but she's a big proponent of the Jaime and Cersei Targaryen, and this is one of my favorite chapters for that.
Yes. I had left on Twitter today. They were doing the 4 pictures of Jon Snow with Ghost there at the end of the show, and there's one good one on Ghost with that ear bitten off. I'm like, I bet you the showrunners are wishing they'd never done that, because now on the Snow show, they're going to have to do that every time they have that.
Yeah,
wolf.
That's probably a little extra CGI that they would prefer not to do.
Yeah, even if it's a picture of a real wolf just blown up, they still got to do some CGI on the ear. But if they put him in the show all together, I mean, that might be the theory of the show is, or the story is that Ghost is missing, and now John's got to go find him. And then somebody had left a comment. The lady, I don't know her name, the lady who played Brienne is all in on showing back up in a show. And, Austin Flowers said, yes, or something like that. And then I'm like, okay, King Bran can no longer sense Jon Snow, and he sends his most trusted warriors, Lady Brienne and Sir Pod. And then underneath that, I said, unfortunately for the women of the 7 Kingdoms, he has taken the white, with a little nod to his...
All right, we're way off topic. Let's get back to it.
Yeah.
And since we're so off topic, I'll resist my Dorcas comments. Although I really do like the Dorcas theory.
No,
anyway.
Man, you're better at it than I am.
I was just telling Casey before we went live that Dorcas means it's one of the first followers of Jesus, but it also means gazelle. And both of those, the idea of a sort of a light-footed animal and a follower of a dead boy, if you will, you look pretty good for a dead boy, would seem to apply more to Varys than to Dorcas. Dorcas doesn't show up till Feast for Crows. Varys disappears at the end of the previous book. And Dorcas is sort of implied to be a little too masculine. But anyway.
All right, thank you.
Are you certain that you must leave us so soon? The Lord Commander asked him. It actually seems like a lengthy stay to me, but Mormont clearly enjoys Tyrion's company.
Right.
Then I shall scour the 7 kingdoms for dwarves and ship them all to you, Lord Mormont. Which that reminds me of Cersei's approach to hunting for Tyrion.
Yes.
Duel. To me, that's more of the work of a boy than an old man or an ancient enemy. When the radio is screaming duel, but then again, Mormont is laughing, and he's not an immature child. So
yeah. Tyrion's surroundings just always tend to be the funniest ones.
I don't know, Jaime. I would argue.
Yeah, especially later on.
Jaime is in fact perhaps I think the funniest line might actually be the heir to the twins. When he's second in line, he makes a comment about his father, something like that ought not prove much difficulty, my lord, or something like that. When Jaime insults his father right in front of him. Mm-hmm. Try not to be as stupid as your sire. That's what he says, right? And the now heir to the twins, but at that point his father's the heir to the twins. Says, that ought not prove much difficulty. he's ripping on his dad.
Oh yeah. Well, he seems to be funnier. I know we're off topic again, but funnier later on because he keeps thinking, what would Tyrion do? what would
Yeah,
Tyrion
that's
say?
that's a
Tyrion would
reasonable
have
point. He's becoming the witty Lannister. Yeah,
right.
I'll buy that.
Yeah.
Chip the ice off your eyes, my good lords, and maybe old new dude. Sir Alistair Thorne should be mucking out your stables, not drilling your young warriors.
Oh, I'm so glad you added that. Well, I mean, I noticed something in this chapter that gets pointed out later on with the I'm on the no go. I'm on the phone. With the sorry about that. The catapult that's taken apart, ready to be repaired, is just sitting there. Yeah. There is a lot of complacentness. I mean, everybody is just worn down. And I still think that Sir Alistair, in his mind, he wasn't the jerk that he is now.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think that he is a good knight. I do think that he's better than what we think he is. But I think he's come 14 years of teaching stable boys and rapers and all this stuff has just chipped away at his knighthood. And there's not a whole lot of the original Sir Alistair Thorne left.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But okay. But
yeah, I didn't include the quote about fighting beside him and so forth. I probably should have, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So based on John's description of Pip's training, he's incompetent. That's the point, right? And we're going to get there.
Yeah.
But so I will highlight that when we get to that.
Thank you.
I think he is a giant come among us here at the end of the world. Tyrion answered gently, "I've been called many things, my lord, but giant is seldom one of them." Nonetheless, Maester Aemon said as his clouded, milk-white eyes moved to Tyrion's face, "I think it is true." For once, Tyrion Lannister found himself at a loss for words. He could only bow his head politely and say, "You are too kind, Maester Aemon." The blind man smiled. He was a tiny thing, wrinkled and hairless, shrunken beneath the weight of 100 years, so his maester's collar with its links of many metals hung loose about his throat. "I've been called many things, my lord," he said, "but kind is seldom one of them." This time, Tyrion himself led the laughter. So, I get that Tyrion is a powerful central figure and likely to be a major role at the Wall later.
Yeah.
But it's strange to me that everyone agrees Aemon is not known as kind. Isn't that a little odd?
Yeah, it's out of place because when we see him, which it also gets to the narrator who's telling it. John sees him as that kindly old advisor.
Yeah.
That's we might be reading the bias of the narrator when it comes to some of these people's.
Right. It's because we see him from John and Sam's eyes, and he's kind to them. But this implies that he's not normally kind.
Well, I mean, you got to look at the people that are in that room too. You got Sir Alistair Thorne. You got Bowen Marsh or whatever his name is. Maybe the officers of Castle Black just suck. I mean,
maybe he lets them know. That's possible.
Yeah,
he may let them know that they're not living up to his standards. That's definitely possible.
We get many times when we're told, it's like in John 1, and for just a moment, Tyrion Lannister stood tall as a king. We get tall, giant, even Shay later, the giant of Lannisters.
Yeah. Lots of
that with Tyrion.
Yep.
And I agree with you. I do believe it's all going to come back to the Wall.
Yep. The strong drink was making Tyrion lightheaded, but not so drunk that he did not realize that the old bear wanted something from him. So that's pretty insightful. I've kind of ridiculed Tyrion's supposed brilliance in the past a little bit because, but his saddle design is brilliant, and which is going to be inspired from this chapter, and and this is really insightful. So sometimes I joke that the smartest thing he does is convince himself to trust the two people trying to destroy his family and to not trust the one person who's a lickspittle for his family.
Right.
But he's so clever. He figures out that he should not trust the one person his family can trust, and that he should trust the two people his family should not trust. But he is pretty insightful here.
Yeah.
All right, where was I? I sent him out with 2 men I deemed as good as any in the watch. More full eye. Full, the Raven agreed. Tyrion glanced up. The bird peered down at him with those beady black eyes, ruffling its wings. Fool, it called again. Doubtless old Mormont would take it amiss if he throttled the creature. A pity. The Lord Commander took no notice of the irritating bird. So, Bran or not, this is good commentary.
Right. Well, it gets back to who's watching through the eyes.
Right. That's why I say Bran or not. It's good commentary.
You got Mormont's raven right there. I mean, there's so much going on with these birds. It's not even funny.
So sometimes I think it's like it's more like a little boy, but here it's good commentary either way.
Yeah.
Already the days grow shorter. There can be no mistake. Aemon has had letters from the Citadel, findings in accord with his own. The end of summer stares us in the face. So this kind of makes sense to me. In our world, in the far north, the change of seasons is much more dramatic. Yeah. So maybe that's true here as well, with Aemon and Mormont visibly seeing the days growing shorter.
Yeah.
It's pretty severe. Like I've been in Alaska in September. And it's pretty amazing how dramatically it shifts compared to those of us in the more southern latitudes.
Well, can you perceive ancient man heading north, and then always seeing a night lasting what a night lasts, and they get up there was sunlight for 30 days or whatever it is. They get up there, they make camp, they're hunting, and all of a sudden it turns dark. And it stays dark, and they ain't never seen it turn dark that long. Kind of like the long night, but yeah.
Right. I have seen darker shapes in my dreams. In your dreams, Tyrion echoed, thinking how badly he needed another strong drink. Mormont was deaf to the edge in his voice. The fisher folk near Eastwatch have glimpsed White Walkers on the shore. So it's literally the first mention of White Walkers, so I thought it was worth highlighting.
Right. Also, you got the dead things in the water later on, wondering what the White Walkers were doing that close to shore right then and there. Then
or whited things or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you also got Mormont saying the darkness is coming. The darkness is coming has got to be the long night. He says darker shapes. I'm thinking to myself, a darker shape might not necessarily be a White Walker. You would think if he's going to say White Walker later on, he could have said White Walker there. But he says darker shapes, and darker shapes make me think of shadow babies, shadows.
Or the black blood of people like Cold Hands. Dennis Mallister writes that the mountain people are moving south, slipping past the Shadow Tower in numbers greater than ever before. They are running, my lord. But running from what? Lord Mormont moved to the window and stared out into the night. These are old bones, Lannister, but they have never felt a chill like this. Tell the king what I say, I pray you. Winter is coming, and when the long night falls, only the Night's Watch will stand between the realm and the darkness that sweeps from the north. The gods help us all if we are not ready. So we as the readers obviously know that this is correct, but Tyrion doesn't.
Well, even at the time, we've only got that glimpse of the very first the chapter of the book, but we still don't know what's ahead until you do the reread.
Yep. Suddenly, a strange madness took hold of him, a yearning to look once more off the end of the world. It would be his last chance, he thought. Tomorrow he would ride south, and he could not imagine why he would ever want to return to this frozen desolation. The king's tower was before him, with its promise of warmth and a soft bed. Yet Tyrion found himself walking past it, toward the vast, pale palisade of the wall. So, George historically has mostly written quantum leap style time travel, with the travelers able to change decisions in their own lifetime. Right. So if this is how future Bran would potentially influence the world, right, if George is doing what he typically does in his science fiction.
As soon as you said quantum leap, it was like a giant light bulb. Like, well, that does make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. That's his whole concept of time travel is that you can't physically travel back, but maybe you could. But maybe you could alter. Using free will, you could alter the past by changing people's decisions. So it's really quantum leap style. It's you go into the mind of somebody, you inhabit them, you make them change a decision, and then you're out.
You can't make them do anything that would be against their character, but if they're going to turn either left or right, and it doesn't matter to them, you can decide which way. Go ahead.
or east or west.
Exactly.
That's where we got to.
Yeah. I had both things written down the same as yours, man.
Yeah. Yep. And what will you be wanting this time of night? The one by the winch asked. A last look. The men exchanged sour glances. Look all you want, the other one said. The other one was said. Right?
That's in the book a lot.
Yeah. That was what we said that last chapter too, I think, or maybe it was the one before that. But I think it was. I think it might have been last chapter. Anyway, he looked off to the east and west as the no, I think it was 2 chapters ago. Now I think about it. But anyway, he looked off to the east and west at the wall stretching before him, a vast white road with no beginning and no end, and a dark abyss on either side. West, he decided, for no special reason, and began to walk that way, following the pathway nearest the north edge where the gravel looked freshest. But Bran quantum leaping.
What's that?
All I wrote was Bran quantum leaping. As he chooses between the east and west.
Yeah.
He decided for no special reason. I was captured by a whim of the old gods, Bran the Bastard.
There you go.
And has Ghost learned to juggle yet? No, said Jon, smiling. But Gren held his own against Halder this morning, and Pip is no longer dropping his sword quite so often as he did. Pip? Pipar is his real name, the small boy with the large ears. He saw me working with Gren and asked for help. Thorin had never even shown him the proper way to grip a sword. So I do think we were too kind to Thorin last episode.
Yeah, but I do put a lot of that on 14 years of just.
Yeah, I get your point. He's disillusioned by having to train rapers and so forth, right?
Yeah.
But the Valakar pointed out, yeah, guys, you're being way too easy on them.
Yeah. That's what I like comments. They tend to keep us honest.
Yeah.
Before that, though, when Tyrion sees Jon, he's sitting there. He carried a heavy spear tipped in iron, taller than he was. That tipped in iron, and I mean, in plenty of stories and everything, iron has been able to disrupt magic.
Yeah, and we're told that. We're told that the others don't like it, or that something like that, right?
They don't like the iron in our blood or something like that. But if they're carrying iron-tipped spears for that particular reason, even though they have access to steel, wouldn't their swords be iron? I mean, wouldn't everything be iron up there?
Yeah, it's a little off, but or maybe they were just maybe it was just recovered from wildlings or something. I don't know.
Or maybe it's just a sword's not going to do them any good. They got a wall. They got just like the arrows and everything.
Yeah, it is. It does seem a little inconsistent, right? To be wielding iron and then also wielding steel.
Right.
I leave on the morrow, Tyrion said. I know. Jon sounded strangely sad. So Mormont is not the only one who's been enjoying Tyrion's company.
Right. Well, we don't know how many times they've met or how many times.
Yeah, but it sure sounds like Jon is sad to see him go.
Yeah.
I know what it is to love a brother, Lord Snow. I will give Bran whatever small help is in my power. Thank you, my Lord of Lannister. He pulled off his glove and offered his bare hand. Friend. Tyrion found himself oddly touched. Most of my kin are bastards, he said with a wry smile. But you're the first I've had to friend.
Oh my goodness!
So this is as I said, my favorite Cersei and Jaime Targaryen clue. Tyrion has 3 surviving kin in his immediate family, and 8 if you extend out to uncles, aunts, nieces, and nephews.
Right.
Even if you somehow expanded to only nieces and nephews and didn't do uncle and aunt, you still don't get to a majority unless there's more than 3 of those, right? So, because that would be 6, and 3 is not a majority. It does not qualify as most. So even if you took that very generous reading of his extended family, you still don't get there without him having another bastard or 2 in his kin, right? So, but he has 2 out of 3 of his main. If Jaime and Cersei are bastards, then 2 out of 3 of his immediate family are bastards, most of his kin, and 5 out of the 8 surviving of his uncle, aunt, father, and his 3 bastard niece and nephews, and so you get 5 out of 8. with Uncle, Aunt, Niece, Nephew, and you get 2 out of 3 with his immediate family.
Right.
So
don't forget Tywin's bastard daughter, potentially.
Oh yeah, and Joy
He
and so
doesn't
forth.
know
So
about
yeah,
it,
you could
but it's
potentially,
still-
if you go out to cousins and things, then you still manage to keep a few extra in there, right? So theoretically, the math might even work out.
Right. Well, that bastard daughter of Tywin would be his half sister.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's ways to get there, but my point is, it works out really nicely if Jaime and Cersei are bastards. That just about every grouping you can do of his kin becomes most of his kin.
Right.
And it's kind of a strange way to put it, because the general expression is many of my closest friends are ex bastards or jerks or whatever, right? Many of my closest friends are ex.
Right. Well, I think that George puts it in there because we, the reader, are going to go, well, he's just calling his kin a bunch of bastards, not meaning that they're actually bastards. So it's just going to go right past.
Right. And then people are like, oh, this is a hint that the 3 are bastards. And it's like, no, that doesn't work. That actually doesn't work. It requires there to be 4 or 5, and it requires arguably 2 close to him to be bastards.
Right. Yes.
So
I
anyway.
think that was the whole point for the whole chapter. That right there.
Yeah. Beyond him, the wall fell away sharply. Beyond him, there was only the darkness and the wild. Tyrion followed him, and side by side they stood upon the edge of the world. Beyond Jon, the wall will fall. There will be only the darkness and the wild. Tyrion will follow him, side by side. They will face the brink of the end of the world. From up here, Tyrion could see it, the dark trees looming beyond the stretch of open ground, like a second wall built parallel to the first, a wall of night. Few axes had ever swung in that black wood, where even the moonlight could not penetrate the ancient tangle of root and thorn and grasping limb. Out there, the trees grew huge, and the rangers said they seemed to brood and knew not men. It was small wonder the Night's Watch named it the Haunted Forest. That's almost as good.
Yeah.
As he stood there and looked at all that darkness with no fires burning anywhere, with the wind blowing and the cold like a spear in his guts, Tyrion Lannister felt as though he could almost believe the talk of the others, the enemy in the night. His jokes of grumpkins and snarks no longer seemed quite so droll. Some really amazing symbolism here.
Yes. Well, that cold like a spear in his guts. I know we talked about the engines of war and possibly using the changing of the seasons as a weapon. We then also got the actual cold itself is the weapon, one of the weapons of the others.
My uncle is out there, Jon Snow said softly, leaning on his spear as he stared off into the darkness. It's almost like Jon is the mind reader here, because it's like he's clued in on how Tyrion is looking at the haunted forest and thinking about how appropriate it is and so forth.
Right.
Ghost and I will go find him. He put his hand on the direwolf's head. I believe you, Tyrion said, but what he thought was, and who will go find you? He shivered. So we close with George's favorite symbol of a mixture of cold and fear, right? It was his whole trembling and shivering and so forth that he does so often.
Yes.
He almost always, when he wants to emphasize somebody's fear, he gives them a trembling or shivering, something along those lines.
Yeah. It's a pretty good chapter.
Yep.
I think you covered everything I said. The forest not letting the moonlight in would also be a forest that doesn't let the sunlight in.
Yep.
So, I mean, chances are there are things watching them a whole lot more than they know, which we hear, I think, later on in the story that they are.
And we get so much in the story that symbolism of the moon being blocked, the stars being blocked, the sun being blocked, right? It really sets up the sort of the nuclear winter disaster kind of scenario where you've got the sky being blocked out for an extended period of time as potential for the long night.
Right, and then while they're talking about venging, that's when they hear wolves howl in the haunted forest. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. The wolf howling stuff was kind of interesting. It's like
they were
what
trying
set
to
that
talk.
off, right? It does feel like there's something setting that off.
Because I mean, it's not like, I mean, Ghost didn't start it, but I mean, it was just right there when they were talking about binging. It was like cue lightning. It was like right on time. So it just felt weird. So something to pay attention to.
Yep.
How's it going? Arya's next.
Yeah. And this is Syrio, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, and I always thought Syrio was sort of a hint that Ashara Dane is Jon's mother. So hear me out here. So the whole point of the story of the first sword is that the person with the person with the direct knowledge of the cat and what it is lies to you, right, and tells you that's not what the cat is, right? But the cat is just what it appears to be. Well, George is misleading people, right, into believing that Ashara Dane is not Jon's mother, but in fact, she's just what she appears to be.
Okay.
Not really, because he's not a bastard, but
right.
because of the bigamy thing. But you know what I mean? It's kind of related, right? It's the idea of George deliberately misleading people, making statements that seem to confirm people's pre-existing theories, which where I don't think that actually counts as really
evidence
confirming. Yeah.
I agree 100%. Okay. Well, it's Friday. Everybody take care. It's going to be a hot weekend where I'm at. So
it's been rainy here recently.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to rain later today, but I'll take the clouds.
Yeah. It was certainly hot before that.
Yeah, this is true. We had some come through. Was it yesterday morning or the day before? I can't remember. But we need to rain. All right, we're leaving. I've been Old New Dude. He's been
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
And we will see y'all Monday with Arya. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.